So let's click on the wheelbase tab. We can see our rotation of the wheel in degrees. So we can make sure that that matches. We've got some basic adjustments here for our force feedback quality. One of the new things in this driver and software package is the addition of a standard mode for force feedback tuning in addition to the now called advanced mode, which is what we used to have. So at the moment we're sitting in standard mode. We've got basic function tests as well, and if you do click on force feedback test, it is quite violent. Not quite so much with the CSL DD, but if you've got a DD1 or DD2, we'll know what I'm talking about here. Let's just click on that quickly and you can see rattling around quite a bit there, rattling the camera as well. And then we have our wheel center calibration too. Now, when we upgrade the motor firmware or the wheelbase firmware, it will prompt us to do this automatically through the firmware manager as well. So if we click across to steering wheel now, we can see again, very similar interface to what we've seen before. Again, wheel rotation in degrees. We see our hat switch there as well. Now, interestingly, the graphic that we have now does make it look like a two-stage digital signal there, but it is still an analog signal, so don't be confused by that. We can see our adjustment for our steering angle set to automatic, which is what we're going to want to have it for most things. Our vibration strength as well for the vibration motors if we're running a wheel that has those, and then testing of our steering wheel functions and so forth, as well as our wheel center calibration. We've got a tab for our shifter as well if we have one of those connected. And then just skipping over tuning menu, we'll come back to that in a moment, clicking on links. We've got some links to the Fanatec shop, the forums, Fanalab, of course, which we will talk about in just a minute, blog, support page, and then some links to the various different Fanatec socials. Settings, we've got our shifter tab on or off, so show or hide. A little bit strange. I don't really know why they need to have that, but hey, it's there. And then our tuning menu. So as we said before, we now have a standard mode as well as an advanced mode, and we can adjust this or change between the modes on the wheel itself without even needing to go into these. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment too. But in standard mode, we've got access to our maximum steering angle, which again, in most cases, you're going to leave set to automatic. I do find sometimes in the F1 games from Codemasters, I like to move this down. Sometimes rally games as well, you might want to set it to something like 540, but otherwise, generally speaking, auto is just fine. Overall force feedback strength, our force feedback linearity mode, which is now called force feedback scale. For a direct drive wheelbase, I would recommend you set this to linear, by the way, but I will do another video where I go through all my recommended settings for each of the popular sim titles for the CSL DD over the coming weeks. So make sure you're subbed so you don't miss out on those. And then our natural damper adjustment here as well. And again, I'll explain all of these settings to you guys a little bit later. If we do hover over these settings, we do get a nice little tooltip here as well, which explains exactly what those settings do. Now, on that note, I do have a very detailed video I did quite some time ago now where I explained exactly what all of the Fanatec tuning menu options do and how they influence the force feedback inside the game. So if you do want to just learn more about how all this works so you can fine tune it yourselves, definitely check that video out. I'll link it above my head for you guys right now as well as down in the description. But if you just want copy and paste settings, what I would recommend you do is go across to the links page, click on the forum tab, and that will take you through to some recommended settings. If you want a more direct way of doing this, then you can do that through Fanalab as well, and I'll show you that a little bit later on in this video. But let's go back to our tuning menu now. And as I mentioned before, we do still have our advanced mode. Click on that now. That gives us access to our 5 different presets, which we can use to set up different cars or different sim titles. So you can switch between those profiles directly from the wheel as well. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment too. But we've got access now to all of our standard wheel settings, which we would expect to see from Fanatec. So maximum steering angle, overall force feedback strength, force feedback scale, natural damper, natural friction, natural inertia, force feedback interpolation filter, force feedback intensity, effect strength, spring effect strength, damper effect strength, and then the mode for our multi-position switches, which just determines how the analog paddles work on the back of wheels which have those installed, and then our shock vibration strength as well for vibration motors should we have a wheel with vibration motors installed.